to HeroesForge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Welcome, Forgers, to episode 10 of HeroesForge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm your host, Jeff Reynolds, and every week I am extremely lucky to have the pleasure of announcing our show's co-host, Kristen Ashton. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good because we have power, so we are good.
Wonderful.
We are rolling, and it's different than yesterday. We tried to record the show as normal yesterday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Sunday, but we had power outages and zombie apocalypses, and it just didn't happen.
Yep.
But we're good today.
We're good today, and there were too many little dragonling spawns, I think, too.
That's right. We wiped. I loved your tweet on that. We wiped on our first run of Onyxia, but we are not wiping this time.
We're going to do it second time victory.
That's right. Man, has it been a great week in games or what? I have seen some awesome stuff with the, well, let's start. What did you get a chance to watch any of the spring regionals for? It was Europe, right?
It was, and I did, and I tuned in at the right time, too. I didn't get to see much of Sunday, but Saturday, I got to see Fnatic versus Team Liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Fnatic pulled out the Murky.
Yes, they did.
I was so happy.
They did, and I'm in a similar boat as you. I saw that as well, and I immediately thought of you, to be honest. I was like, oh, Kristen's going crazy right now.
The tweets were flying. The Murky love was felt. I mean, Murky represented. People make fun of him for not being a serious hero, but when you get someone who can seriously play him, he is legit.
Right, and you know what's crazy is that people don't know how to play against him.
Yes.
And I was watching that because, I mean, yeah, it's great. It's so fun. I'll never forget. Some of my friends really loved at BlizzCon when Cloud9 pulled out the Murky in the championship set, and the announcer's like, Murky,
and the crowd went what? Yes,
oh,
he is a crowd favorite. I love it.
He is just so fun, and there have been some great off-meta picks. I mean, I feel like the meta is really it's very moldable right now. It's not really set. Like, I remember the days when it was real set with, double tank, Leoric and Joanna, which is Leanna if you combine the two.
One tank. It's actually this freaky merged object that screams "kill me" when you bring it into existence.
Exactly.
But it tanks.
So that's Leanna, and if we have any listeners that would like to draw a picture of Leanna and send it to us.
We don't want to see that.
We don't want to see it. But, but I remember that when there were times that, the meta was very stale. It was very stuck.
Oh, certainly. And Kael'thas was also in there. Kael'thas and Jaina. Kael'thas and Jaina.
Did you play any Kael'thas?
No, actually, I've never really played a burst hero, honestly.
Me either.
It just never connected for me. And even when the Sorceress was released, I guess I don't have the mindset of a bursty hero. So I do much better with assassins because I've got that tunnel vision. Yeah,
I think I am the same way. I haven't played, I've played them maybe 1 or 2 games, but I don't play them hard. But I'm the same. But speaking of games heroes that I've played hard, I played a lot of Zool last week.
Oh, yes.
Did you have a good time? We haven't talked about it.
No, we haven't, but Zool is incredible. I can't get over the amount of damage his scythe sweep does.
Oh, yeah. It's probably in need of a nerf.
Maybe.
I think it's pretty powerful, and I was saying earlier that I think it feels like Leoric's skeletal swing did.
Yes.
Before they nerfed it. It's got some serious wave clear.
It does, and it works for him because he's supposed to be a lane clearer.
Right.
However, what's interesting to note, though, is that he can't take merc camps.
Oh, no. I've had really bad luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've had very, very bad luck with taking merc camps as Zool alone. Mm-hmm. But I still think in the league that I've been playing in, I've been in either two positions. One, I do really well with Zool because the other team doesn't know how to play against him.
Yeah.
Or two, it's the complete opposite, and they have an Illidan, and they have somebody that, jumps over you and just wrecks you, because he is fairly squishy.
He is, even though he's melee, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. But, man, I've had games where I've had 200,000+ siege damage. It feels so good.
Oh, doesn't it? The towers, they go down it's like your scythe is a warm knife and the towers are butter, and you just cut through if nobody stops you. Oh, I love specialists for that reason alone.
Yeah, specialists are fun, especially, when you said no one stops you, and you just literally cut right through all their stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then you've got your little skeletal minion buddies rising from the dead, helping you push the lane.
So fun.
Yeah.
They must be capped, though, because I feel like I kill a lot of... There must be like a maximum amount of skeletal buddies that you can have at one time.
Yes, I believe unspec'd you can have 4, but you can spec it to get 6. I might be wrong about the 6.
Oh, okay.
Though. I know 4 though is the max when you start.
I want to have like an army. I wish there was. I wish there was an ability where you could just
all
keep
skeletons
on pushing it. Yeah, and Squinty Eyes is in chat, and he's saying that it is 4 talented to 6. So you're right, Kristen.
Awesome.
And he's just a ton of fun. I actually already have him to level 8. I've played him so much.
Oh, congratulations! Yeah. Wow, you really have put in some time there. Now, were you stimmed?
No.
Okay.
No, but I was playing with friends, so I did have the friend boost to it. But, and I haven't been really digging the specialty skins that come out with the heroes, but I like Zool's, the Cobra head, the whole Cobra outfit. I like that a lot.
Thank you. I'm so glad I'm not the only one. I feel like there was so much negative output when they showed the Cobra skin, but I thought it was phenomenal. He's got the giant headpiece, the staff, he's a mummy. It's
cool. It's got a great flavor. So that's all. This isn't a whole episode about Zool, so we won't keep going. But if you,
what would Zool be like if he were in Heroes of the Storm?
Well, he'd have a scythe, and but yeah, and there've been a lot of other games. I mean, I'm still playing Overwatch. How are you making progress on BioShock?
Doing well. I start back up tomorrow morning. So last time, I almost got to the leader of Rapture. And so now I need to finish putting together different devices to blow the security system that's closed his door. And so tomorrow we get to relive the big secret of the BioShock story.
It is a great secret to relive, if I can remember how it all plays out. And it's been a while, but it's worth reliving. So I'll be tuning in for sure.
Awesome.
Or catching the VOD. Great. Tons of awesome games, and one of them's Heroes of the Storm. So if you're listening to the show for the first time, this is HeroesForge. Our goal is to have a community-driven podcast all about the hit MOBA, Heroes of the Storm. What we do is we take a character from the Blizzard universe, and we do what's called forging, or we imagine what that character would look like if it was in Heroes of the Storm. And we're really, really lucky because we have a huge plethora of amazingly developed Blizzard characters that haven't been included in the game quite yet, but we're hoping that they will be someday. So, let's go ahead and let's forge.
Let's forge.
All right, Kristen. Well, we have definitely had a pass at this last night, so this may not be a surprise to some people. And I think we talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but why don't you tell everybody who we are forging this evening?
Today on HeroesForge, Jeff, we are forging Onyxia.
Oh, Onyxia, a dragon. The community asked for a dragon. They tweeted at us at Forge Heroes on Twitter, and they said, we want a dragon. And we've done Nosdormu before, which was a dragon, but, you can never have enough dragons, I don't think. I mean, they're just so powerful, strong, and in World of Warcraft especially, they're super, super developed and they have great backstories, right, Kristen?
Correct. And the fact, too, that Blizzard actually takes the time to develop different skins for their human models. I think that says something to how cool the World of Warcraft team finds them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think most people really are into dragons. I mean, with Game of Thrones and, you know, all of that. I mean, there's just something so scary and powerful about them.
Certainly.
I think.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they're intelligent, in D&D at least, you can talk to them. Generally, they're smarter than humans, and they live for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's really neat. So speaking of good dragon lore, Kristen, why don't you tell us a little bit about Onyxia's story in the Warcraft universe?
Can do. Born from the coupling of Deathwing and Syntharia, it was no surprise that Onyxia would inherit her parents' ruthless determination to see to the success of her many ambitions. After driving the Stonemaul ogres from their home, the Black Dragon nested deep within Dustwallow Marsh, allowing her numerous children to attack passers-by that ventured too close. Yet these minute disturbances were hardly enough to keep her satiated. Taking on the guise of Lady Katrana Prester, Onyxia settled in Stormwind, climbing the ranks to become Varian Rin's top advisor. After fueling a rebellion that led to Varian's wife's death, Onyxia was able to further cement her hold over the kingdom. Only after a botched assassination attempt on Varian's life was her true guise finally revealed. Outnumbered, Onyxia kidnapped Varian's son Anduin and returned to her lair. All of Azeroth rose up against this treachery, delving down to defeat her for the first time. But, as with most evil entities in Azeroth, Onyxia would rise once more, this time as an abomination stitched together and resurrected by her brother Nefarian. Defeated a second time, only the future knows if Onyxia is truly gone for good.
I love that last part. Just like most things in the Warcraft universe, it's true.
It seems like they've taken a page from comic books. You know, when you have a popular character, you can kill them, sure, but why not bring them back more powerful than before?
Yeah, and then more scary than before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's part of it. And Onyxia in the game, and we chatted a little bit offline, Kristen, about this before, but you didn't ever play with Onyxia or against Onyxia in the game.
Correct. I never did the raid.
So I was lucky enough to have done the raid, and it was so cool. I remember that's when I played Warcraft a lot.
Yeah.
And it was the thing you had to do. I don't even know what the thing you have to do is now. Like when you start at level 1, when I played, I remember the goal at level 1 was to get to Onyxia. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to get to Onyxia. That was my goal. And I was lucky enough to make it and actually down her in the guild that I was with. So it holds a near and dear place in my heart because it was such a big time consumption while I played, and my months and months of subscription money to play to get to Onyxia. I mean, Blizzard built the Burning Crusade off of my subscription money for me to get to Onyxia. But I mean, you know of Onyxia, right? Before we did this? Yeah, of course. Because everybody knows about Onyxia, you know, and it's a great story. So her backstory is so awesome. And
certainly.
Yeah, it's just killer. So the way that this works, if you first time listening to the show, is that Kristen and I have both built a build for Onyxia and what we think she would look like in Heroes of the Storm. So we're going to go through piece by piece of this hero's kit, and we're going to just chat it through and just have some really cool, fun ideas. Some of these ideas are going to be OP. Some of them might be a little silly, but it's all about just coming up with some really, really fun things that we can imagine Onyxia would do if she was in Heroes of the Storm. So the first thing that we always start with the role classification of the character if it was in the game. So Kristen, what role classification did you think Onyxia would fall under?
Warrior. Hands down. I watched some of those solo raids, you know, when you get top level and you go back down to Onyxia. Yeah. She's a warrior.
Oh yeah, and she's fierce, right? Like just the teeth, and you can see the tail, and you know all the. It's just she is very, very fierce. So, and she's dragon, right?
Yeah.
So first thing I think of is dragon skin.
Yes.
I think of like thick, you know, warrior armor. So I think warrior is great. I think that's a great choice. So with your warrior build, are you thinking that her basic attacks would be melee?
Her basic attacks, I would go with melee. She'd use her staff. However, we'll get into that later because the warrior I'm envisioning isn't the typical warrior.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And speaking of not typical, I'll tell you my role idea for Onyxia. So I went really off the wall here. Crazy, because I'm thinking I kind of drew this from the fact that I used to play the super nerdy Warcraft trading card game.
Yes.
Where you would collect all the cards, and one of the coolest, it's kind of like Hearthstone, but a physical version of it. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been retired, but it did exist, and it was pre-Hearthstone, and you would build your decks and you would battle each other, but there was another way that you could play the game, and you could play it in what they called a raid mode, where you would buy a pre-made deck that would have a raid boss in it. And the first one was Onyxia.
Oh.
And one person would play Onyxia, and you would play against, I believe it was 4 or 5 other decks. And they're trying to beat you, and as the raid boss, you had your own stages. So when they got you down to a certain amount of health, you'd whip out another card that would do something else, and you would, you know, have all these stages. And it was so cool because if you beat Onyxia, she actually had loot cards that she would give you, and they would have in-game codes on it, and you would scratch it off and you'd get in-game items. So that's enough about the trading card game.
That's incredible, though. That got me excited to play it, and I've only ever looked at the cards.
God, it is so fun, and it was so fun, and I'm sad that they don't have it anymore, but Hearthstone is definitely a more viable game than that was. But I wish that they had a boss mode in Hearthstone like that. So when I was thinking about that, I just thought that was such a cool idea that they hadn't done in a card game that I had seen before. So what could I do with Onyxia that was different? And I'm thinking that Onyxia would be played by all 5 members of the team. So it would be all 5 people would have to choose that they wanted to play Onyxia, and it would be, in my mind, as if it was another game mode called The Raid.
Oh, dear.
So I know it's way different, and it's way, you know, and some people are like, well, don't bring that into Heroes of the Storm, and I kind of feel that way too, but I wanted to keep it team-based so that it still felt like a brawler of epic proportions, but it had a different feel to it, and I think you'd have to have a different mode that people would log into if they were going to do this, because then they would be expecting to do this. Because you wouldn't want to log into Hero League and then the first pick is Onyxia, and then everybody else is locked in to Onyxia, because it would take all 5 people, right?
Fair enough. However, could you imagine how it would force camaraderie?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
of course, the first pick who chose Onyxia would be blasted to heck and back. However,
you'd have to work together.
Yeah.
So my thought is that Onyxia would be a specialist, a tank, and an assassin. All 3 of those things. So there is no support inside of there. Just a specialist, a tank, and assassin. And Onyxia would be played by all 5 members of the team. One player would play Onyxia, and the others would play her children, or the whelps.
Oh.
So that's my thought.
Yep. Destroying raid groups since, when did Onyxia come out? Early 2000s?
That's
Maybe
right.
Maybe earlier.
But yeah, destroying friendships too. I mean, it's all smiles and rainbows over with Warcraft raiding. No one ever gets mad at anyone.
Oh, no, not at all. Not during the first wipe or the second wipe. But starting on the third wipe, when people start getting serious and the chat quiets down and all you hear is clicking and some furious muttering under the breath, then you know.
Oh, yeah. No, and the chat's going crazy and they're all yelling at each other. It's just... It's a blast. Who wouldn't want to pay $15 a month to do that?
To get insulted by 49 other people.
Exactly.
Good time.
So the next thing we talk about is their trait or a passive ability that they might have. So I went and I built a trait for both Onyxia and her whelps, which would be played by the 4 other players on the team. So the first one that I had for Onyxia, her trait would be called Attunement. So I'm thinking that Onyxia's lair is a dreaded place. She stalks, waiting for her enemies to enter, just to be shredded by her razor-sharp teeth and burned to a crisp by her fire breath. Onyxia is not able to travel past the keep layer of the map. On the map, the keep walls are replaced by fire walls, or walls made of fire, that cannot be passed by the enemy team until they destroy all of the Onyxia team forts. Once this happens, the heroes can travel to the inner layer to face Onyxia. On the other hand, Onyxia is also released and is able to move freely if this happens. If the Onyxia team destroys the opposing team's forts, Onyxia is also released, allowing her to roam free. So it's a whole lot. But in theory, I'm thinking it would be just the whelps, just 4 whelps that are battling on the battlefield until either the enemy team or the whelps destroy the first line of forts. Like all 3 of the forts.
Certainly. And then
she would
released.
be set free. Yeah.
Oh, man. But couldn't you get around that as an enemy team member by only going after one lane?
Yes, but then you would never be able to get into the keep layer.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so you'd be fighting one lane, and maybe that's a strategy against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could fight in one lane to buff your level to get higher and higher and higher level, and then take down a keep, or take down the other forts, and then just plow through to get into Onyxia. But I'm thinking that it would be, I wanted it to be a little more fair, because I think Onyxia is going to be really strong in my build.
Yes.
So I thought, at the beginning of the game, let's make it so it's just the whelps versus the heroes.
Yeah, 4v5, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and the whelps have a trait that's similar to Murky. It's called Outnumber and Outlast.
Oh.
Whelps spawn out of lava fonts that have a very short cooldown timer. The fonts are placed by the player playing Onyxia, and it will be able to be destroyed by the enemy team, and then it would go on the full, counter, just like a Murky kind of feel. And whelps don't have a serious health pool, but they can respond quickly. So Onyxia is not just bored sitting behind the keeps.
Yes.
She's able to...
So she's got avatar minds, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So she's sitting out there behind the keeps, kind of doing things and going, and then once the keeps go down on either side, she's just coming out.
I think this could work in a regular game. I know we joked about people disagreeing and rolling their eyes with the first pick Onyxia, but this sounds incredible. How much fun would that be?
I know.
Even as Onyxia, you've given Onyxia something to do so that player is not bored out of their minds. Whereas the whelps, they would just get to spawn. They would have to rely on her to place those founts in a safe yet close place so that their 4v5 would remain viable, because they'd keep coming back fast enough to hold off an enemy pulling for a tribute or something.
Yeah, and I'm sure you, in your research like I did, I saw one of the things I remember is that the whelps are just overwhelming.
Yes.
Like sometimes they're just coming, so maybe they even spawn faster than Murky. Like they're just coming at you, and they're real weak, you can take them out, but they're just always coming at you, and they're controlled by players. But what was your thought on the warrior version of her trait?
Well, the warrior version, I'm thinking the enemy of my enemy.
Ooh.
And playing to her love for disguises, Onyxia is able to become a friendly target on the enemy team's side. In this form, she is ignored by enemy structures and units and is untargetable by the enemy team. She does, however, remain a friendly unit on her own team.
Oh, so she's friendly to all.
Correct. And so this will play later once we get to the abilities, but the warrior I was thinking Onyxia would be one of deception, because she never broke into her dragon form unless she was forced to. And yet at the same time, I want her to be able to act as a governing body within team fights.
Right, and that is such a unique idea to keep her alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the sustainability. So I'm assuming she can still attack?
We'll get to that.
Okay. I'm jumping ahead too fast here today. I just need to know. I need to know. Yeah, what a cool idea. And that's something that's not even close to in the game.
No.
Like, it's so, because you're still there and you're still able to move. It's not like any sort of, transporting ability or anything where you disappear or you blink forward. You're still there and just no one can attack you because you're a friend.
Correct.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so original and great. What were you thinking for her mount?
I was just going with dragon form. I tried to come up with something super creative this time, but I was dragon form.
Yeah, it was hard. I thought the same thing. My Onyxia actually doesn't fly.
Yeah.
She's just what I call gigantic in the game, which would be a new mount class, I think, because I think Onyxia's sheer size causes her to move slower than a normal hero. Her movement speed is reduced and she does not have the ability to move at a mounted's pace. Because I want to make her strong. I want to make her a raid boss. And I think having her being able to move quickly is an issue.
I think that's fair. And especially with the dragon too, she has a lot more mass than anybody else. So that would be weird if she was as agile as Sylvanas or Vala. Now, when she's in the base, can she move around within the base?
Yeah.
Okay.
She can position in my mind like, oh man, they're really pushing bot. I'm going to really go up top. And when they take the final keep, I'm just going to push them top. Or when they take the final fort, I'm just going to go straight out and push top because they're not even going to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be a lot of different strategy for that. And the whelps wouldn't have a mount either, but I call them another mount class, which would be frantic.
Ooh.
So whelps move at an increased movement speed at all times, similar to a Lunara. They fly through the air more quickly and move through the map. So that's kind of like a frantic kind of feel for whelps, I thought.
Yeah, and of course, if we go with the whole idea that they spawn faster than Murkies, heaven help the team who has to deal with that.
I know.
That would definitely make it feel frantic. I would probably freak out and be like, go away, just go away.
That's the feel I think it needs to have, like a Birds feel, like the film Birds.
Oh, yes, and then question 2, how quickly could Onyxia reposition the fire chasm?
Like the lava fonts for the things to come up.
Yes.
I think once they're destroyed, it would have to be on a cooldown, of course, before she could put it up again.
Yeah.
But you'd have to strategically, like you said, put them in places where people wouldn't find them, or put them right in front of your towers so they think they can get to them, and then the towers are attacking there. And I mean, there'd be some serious strategy.
Yeah, and then if you were a whelp too, you'd really have to think about your positioning and movement on the map, because you don't want to give away where the font is,
right?
Especially if it's in a more vulnerable position near a tribute.
And that's how Murky plays too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you play it?
Yeah. Generally, though, I leave my egg back by my forts. And since I don't really die too often, as Murkies sometimes can, I don't really have to worry about that too much. If it's a good game, I'll venture to put my egg out. But dying for an actual full length of time is incredibly detrimental to what you're trying to do. So I like to play it safe with the egg.
Yeah, so same thing. I mean, same kind of feel for the lava font.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't think of a better thing to call that. Lava tube, maybe.
I like the lava font. The lava font is really nice. It reminds me of Hawaii. Images of really cool lava.
Whelps drinking cocktails out of coconuts.
Yep, they got little lays on, little hula skirts.
Perfect. So what were you thinking Onyxia's Q would be in your build?
Q would be called Bad Counsel. Onyxia becomes a friendly target on the enemy team's side for a short period of time. While active, she releases an area of effect debuff, causing abilities to miss targets and hit incorrect targets.
Ooh, love it. That has got the perfect raid flavor to it, because it's got that whole Like, I tried to later in my build incorporate fear, because that was a big part of the raid, is being feared and stuff. That has the same kind of feel where you lose control of yourself. That's a big part of a lot of Warcraft raids, where you're just, misdirected, or you're feared and you're running all over. You're not able to go where you want to go.
Exactly, and it adds to the frustration of it all. And of course, playing this as a warrior, of course, she can't be targeted, so she's safe with her health, which leaves her team exposed. However, if she's then doing something to counter the fact that she's not a body on the field that can be targeted, it would allow for her to really give her team an advantage.
Right. That's what I was just going to say. That's great. Oh, what a cool idea. So, great. I'm thinking it through, and I just think it's so awesome that it's some of these ideas that we have. I know it might sound a little funny, but I'm like, why isn't that in the game? That'd be so great, something like that.
I'm sure they have, because they have to do numbers and everything.
We don't do numbers.
We're just doing we're the idea men here, We're throwing
That's
around
right.
cool things, but would it legitimately be able to work and be balanced?
Probably
That's
not.
the question.
Speaking of unbalanced, let's talk about my queue.
Go back to the raid boss.
Let's go back to the boss that moves slower but can take a fort out in one hit. That's not true. Onyxia's Q is, in my build, called Fearsome Bite. Onyxia's bite is instantaneous and deadly. When Q is activated, she will automatically lash out and bite the closest hero in range to her, causing significant damage. This hero is now bleeding and will suffer a small amount of damage over time. So I kind of thought of it like quick cast, where if you just click it, it's just going to happen.
Oh, yes.
And whoever's the closest, you can't miss, like a Lily heal or something. It's just going to happen. And so that's a little lower skill cap in my mind, where you just hit it, she bites.
Yeah, correct. As long as you're in range, right?
Yeah, she can't obviously bite you if you're out of range, but yeah, she's just going to bite, and then you're going to be spamming that Q, because you're just going to be like, go, 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 go.
Yes.
I just need to get as many bites in as I can.
Yes.
And the whelp's Q in my idea was called Fireball, of course. But I went all out with this. I kind of added another game mechanic in here that I was thinking of.
Just reinventing this entire game.
That's right.
Is it going to be Heroes by the time we're done, Jeff?
No, and then you can have weapon skins for all of your Counter-Strike weapons in the game. And no, it is still Heroes. Whelp's Q is called Fireball, and whelps may be small and have low HP, but they are a serious threat to the enemy team. When the whelp players activate Q, a fire in Fireball shoots in a straight line that does extra damage to enemy heroes that it hits. So it does extra damage to heroes. This also causes them to be burned, quote unquote, for a very small amount of damage. This small amount of burn damage can only be regenerated if the hero uses their Heartstone or dies. It cannot be healed by a healer. The ability stacks until the hero returns to the core or is eliminated.
Ouch. And all I can think of is that the whelplings, they're not hurling fire, they're hurling insults. So upsetting that
Yes.
Kael'thas is burned to the
Right.
core.
That's right.
He has to go back and cry a little, recompose himself, and then come back.
So think about how that would change the game. It's like, because healers can heal through, other than that burst damage, they can just heal you up and go through. That would change the way that the game is played. And that's where I think the whelps and the raid boss, Onyxia, would have a little bit of an advantage for time, because they're not going to be able to do as much damage as the enemy team, obviously, because they're just a whole bunch of whelps flying around doing a little bit of damage. So the enemy team is going to have to be hearthing. They're going to have to be dying in order to regain that health, and it's just going to keep stacking that little. I just imagine their health bar gaining a little like red X's that just fill up the side of it so that it can't be full all the way.
Yeah, and I would imagine probably the only thing you could do to counter this would be a pretty heavy dive comp, so that you can kill the dragons before they do too much damage.
And then all hearth back, heal up, and then get back out there and fight some more.
Exactly. And maybe you go with heroes that not only are dive happy, but have relatively larger health pools so that they can tank that fire damage and still remain viable within a fight.
Yeah, I just think it would be so cool because when they came out with Cho'Gall, they thought, we want to feel like you're fighting a raid boss.
Exactly.
Which it feels good. It does. They did accomplish that. But I want more. I want to be
You're not happy with the Cho'Gall. You're not happy with the Chen. Oh, no.
No.
A 5-man raid boss.
That's right.
No, I'm loving this build. This is incredible. It would be so much fun to play.
Yeah, but the numbers, I mean, you're right. The numbers would take some serious time. The warrior version, Kristen, what were you thinking for the W on the warrior version?
For the warrior version of W, we're still sticking with the friendly trait. So this one is called the Art of Suggestion. And you quickly transform into a friendly target on the enemy team. Onyxia targets and curses an enemy hero. This hero is now seen as an enemy target by their own team and can take damage by way of basic attacks or abilities for a short period of time. This enemy hero is also now targetable by nearby towers and units until the curse ends.
Whoa, that is great. That has a raid boss feel.
Yeah, and imagine the confusion because I'm not even paying attention when I'm in team fights. There are colors and explosions everywhere. I'm just going for the red. So
right.
Could you imagine if we had a Li Ming, she's turned into an enemy, I wouldn't be paying attention. I'd probably kill her, especially if she was almost dead.
Oh yeah, I'm chasing that like little sliver of health so hard sometimes. I shouldn't always chase, but I do. But man, if you didn't know, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and imagine if you're trying to defend your towers too and you get turned into an enemy unit. Suddenly you can't run back to safety because there's no safety there. So where do you go?
Yeah. Oh, that feels good. That feels like Onyxia feels. I love that. I love what you're doing with this completely different aspect of the game that's not even in there. It is so great. My W for Onyxia is pretty basic idea. It's called Fire Breath.
Yes.
So that's the Whelp's W. Is called Fire Breath. Oh, we already talked about that. Didn't we?
Yeah, Fireball.
Oh, Fireball. This is Fire Breath.
Oh.
This is the W.
Oh,
Sorry,
dear.
all this fire things is just driving me.
Who would have thunk that having fire in so many words would get confusing after a while?
Exactly. So the whelps would be, whelps would have complete control over the use of fire and could also have the ability to channel it in other forms that weren't just a fireball. So when the W is used, a whelp player channels fire in a cone shape, kind of like the Dragon Knight, and this ability does bonus damage to buildings and structures. So the first ability, which was the fireball, is targeting for heroes, and this one is targeting for structures. Because again, in the thought would be that we need to be able to take down those keeps as fast as we possibly could.
Yes.
So that's where the whelps would be coming in, just swarming the keeps, and then the other enemy heroes, maybe they would throw down an AoE and it would take all the whelps out. But the thought is that they're just back up instantly, and they're on a different fort, and they're taking out that fort, and they're using fire breath, and then the fireball comes in. So it's not necessarily a lane presence thing. It's more like a overwhelming amount.
Yeah, I'm thinking Murky's no longer the most annoying hero in
Right.
Heroes. Neither is Abathur. Oh no, we get these whelps in there? Oh yes.
Yeah. So, and then Onyxia's W would be Dragon Swipe. So a dragon's claws are something in the nightmares of the inhabitants of Azeroth. It is said that their sharp talons have the ability to cut through the hardest of materials with ease. So when W is activated, the Onyxia player can use her massive dragon claw to swipe in a full cone shape in front of her, cleaving her enemies. The attack has a very short cooldown, and it's used as Onyxia's basic attack. So she doesn't have necessarily a basic attack where she's just, hitting automatically. You'd have to be spamming that W and that Q, biting and clawing, and you just have to keep on hitting them.
Gotcha. So it would be very much like Gaul, where you don't basic
Right.
attack, you use your abilities. That's
Right.
it.
Exactly. That's exactly how I was thinking. So that's the W's on my end. So it's getting even more crazy, and I want to hear this awesome E for the warrior version. So what were you thinking for the E, Kristen?
The E, true form. Pressed into a corner with nowhere to run, Onyxia explodes into her dragon form, dealing burst damage around her that pushes back all nearby enemies.
Oh, love it. Just the feel of that. And she'd have to say something awesome, right?
Oh, certainly. Something about, oh, what did she say? Something about when you go into her lair, now she doesn't have to go out to feed or something.
Oh, that's so perfect. Yeah, something definitely chilling like that. So good. Yes. And just the visual, I can just imagine the toon like exploding with all those, and then you know you're in trouble when you're on the enemy team.
Exactly. And now you're dealing with the actual warrior. She's no longer practicing subterfuge behind enemy lines. She's there in your face.
She's no longer possibly a friend, but most likely not, but maybe. But
she's no longer whispering empty promises into your ear.
Oh, promises. Love it. That is so good. And on my end for the E for Onyxia, something called Tail Whip, which is directly from the game. So what would a murderous dragon would be without a tail whip? As I wrote this out, I was thinking, well, this is really cheesy,
It
but I'm
wouldn't be
still
a
going to
dragon
say
at
it.
all, actually.
Exactly. So this ability turns Onyxia in 180 degrees. So it's going to turn her completely into a different direction, and it deals damages and pushes the heroes back, kind of like a Cho hammer push. Like
Yes.
that far is what I'm thinking. Flapping her or turning her back instantly is what happens when this ability is activated. So it takes a high skill cap. This would be a high skill cap ability because you'd be facing the wrong direction. And remember, she moves slower than other heroes. So
Yes.
even if it's just that half a second, it would be real difficult to time it. But you'd have to, combo it because you're going to push them back. So you're hitting them, you're pushing them back, and then hopefully the whelps are there to help you out. But that's the tail whip, which is basic. I mean, that's basic dragon ability, right?
Exactly. It comes in your standard dragon kit when you're born as a dragon. You got your tail whip, you got some sort of breath attack, and certainly a claw swipe.
Yeah, so yeah. And then with the whelps, I was thinking their E would be a dash. And the whelps are small and agile assassins. They're feisty and ferocious foes. And dash allows the player to escape or chase enemy heroes, flapping their wings even faster and traveling a short distance at an increased movement speed. So kind of like a vault.
Yeah.
You're just really just woo, 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 just going even faster.
Especially
So,
if they need to go and protect their mother.
right.
Dearest
And
mother.
they'll get there fast, and they're spawning fast, and they're just
Keep on coming.
exactly.
Oh, and here's a good question for you. So, is your raid boss hero immune to polymorphs, stuns, or all CC?
Ooh, I don't think it would be. See, that's tough. That's a really good question.
That's
Jen.
something the Blizzard needs to come up with. No, I think it's
Yeah.
a question we need to answer here on the show.
Can you polymorph? I don't think you can polymorph a raid boss in WoW.
That's a
I
good
don't-
point. You can't, and a lot of them you can't sap or anything
Yeah,
like that.
so
either.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that Onyxia would be immune to that, and that would be something you'd have to build around.
However,
And
the whelps would not be, correct?
No, the whelps would not be. And I'm thinking that because Blizzard is always talking, and the community is always talking about how there are so many comps that are built out of CC, like all these CC comps and everything. So maybe this would bring life to it because your CC wouldn't do a whole lot of good if you're fighting Onyxia. So why not take another, instead of ETC, maybe I'm going to take Leoric, which doesn't have the same kind of CC or something like that. So that's a really good question that I hadn't think of, that I didn't think of. So, and there's definitely, Karsus in the chat is bringing up a good point too. You could probably reduce the CC, or you'd have to find a really good balance, because the fact that she can't move at the right speed already is kind of hindering her. Well, it's definitely hindering her movement. So we'll leave that to Blizzard.
We've got
that's
the
a
base,
really good
the base answer out there, and it's about as far as we go down that rabbit hole.
Exactly. Well, that's all the basic abilities, right?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of basic abilities, especially with these whelps on my build too. So before we move into the best part of the show, I want to really thank everyone that's given us a 5-star rating on iTunes. It has definitely helped the show grow. We have a few more 5-star ratings this week, which is great. Make sure if you leave a 5-star rating that you put a little note there so that we can give you a shout out on the show. We love to announce those names on the show. So just take a second, maybe just write a little note to us in the review, and that way we can shout you out on the show and give you props for helping the show grow. That's a huge, huge help. So we had a few 5-star reviews this week, and we thank you for them immensely because they're a huge help. So now, speaking of awesome things like 5-star reviews, let's go ahead and let's forge the best part of these heroes. Let's forge the heroics.
Heroic.
I'm going to start this one, Kristen, because
I mean, you're going to have to finish this one too as the raid boss. You got to start. You got to finish what you start, man.
So here's my thought. For the whelps, they would only have one heroic ability to choose from. I'm thinking we're already kind of getting OP, so they can only have one, and I'm calling it the 9th circle.
Oh, dear.
So... Man, when you say, oh dear, it makes me think, oh no, I better edit this before I say it. The 9th circle. Whelps have only one heroic to choose from. This ability pulls all whelps in the area together. So it's going to have like an AoE field, and it's going to pull them all together, and they're going to begin to spin, creating a tornado of heat and fire that pulls all enemy heroes together in the area and deals damage to them. During this time, the enemy team is not stunned, but loses all movement ability as they're pulled to the circle's center. The duration and strength of this ability is based on how many whelps are involved in the tornado. So, you're thinking, would all of these whelps be able to activate this ability?
Correct.
Because then
That's
you'd
the
have
number one
5 of these going off.
Or are we doing like
back.
a Power Ranger thing where each one has to announce their special little power and hold up their tiny little clawed hands to the camera? And...
You know they're rebooting Power Rangers? This is completely off topic, but they're redoing it. Like they're a new cast and everything.
I've heard.
Anyway, extremely off topic. Just like Fuller House, another one I probably won't watch. But I'm thinking that Onyxia would be able to choose the leader whelp. Like saying, okay, this whelp here has the ability to activate the 9th circle. Then once it's activated, Onyxia would have to choose another whelp to be able to activate the 9th circle. And then that would add another skill thing to the game where Onyxia's also got to be focused on activating those or giving the power of that heroic.
Yes. Okay. So then the whelp would be notified that their heroic is now active, correct?
Right. They would be notified, like something would pop up on the screen, and it would say, ping, and then you would know, oh, I have the power to use the 9th circle. So I'm going to wait. Oh, I hit it, but only one other whelp was in there. The Onyxia player is going, oh, that whelp kind of sucked at throwing that out. I'm going to give it to somebody else. Then the other one hits it, and all 4 whelps are in it, and it gets everybody going and go, okay, that's the one I want to give it to again. Give it to that whelp. I mean, it adds another raid feel to it.
Yeah, I love it because it also adds to the fact that she's a brood mother.
Right.
I mean, she has control over her whelplings. They're not some free-spirited little upstarts. They are hers.
Yeah. So that was my thought on the whelps heroic. What was your thought on the first heroic for your build?
Well, the first one I'm calling Onyxia's lair, of course, in honor of, Onyxia's lair. Calling for the fires of her lair, the ground around Onyxia cracks open, revealing lava underneath. Any enemy in this area takes ongoing damage. In addition, any enemy that tries to run through one of the various cracks becomes rooted and takes additional damage for the duration of the root.
That couldn't be more perfect for the flavor of the raid. And I rewatched some of the raid footage, and that is perfect flavor. And I love that. The root and everything, so good. Oh, man.
Yeah, and it would be great, too, because it would kind of be like Thrall's slow, but with a little extra flavor in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I like those things that make good abilities just a little different.
Yeah.
You know, because eventually we're going to run out of abilities here, and they're all going to be, you know, just a little bit different. And the ones that are just enough different are really good.
Exactly.
And I think that's smart.
Yeah, and then Zool, of course, we've all gotten tired of Tassadar's wall, so they gave it to Zool, and they said, Zool, what would you do with it? He said, skeletal mages, and they went, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and it works.
Yes.
I mean, it works when it works, but it's not easy to lay out. I mean, I never played Tassadar, so I didn't know how to lay out that forest wall, so it takes a little bit of time to get used to that.
Mm-hmm, to get used to the controls.
Yeah. It's great, though. It's super cool. So my heroic for the Onyxia player is going to sound a little familiar. It's called Liquid Earth.
Oh.
And Onyxia players choose a place to place her lair that is on a thin layer of ground with liquid hot magma below it. This is done on purpose and allows Onyxia to manipulate it at any time. This heroic ability allows her to stomp on the ground with her massive dragon claw and bring the lava to the surface, damaging enemy heroes in a zone and placing that burn debuff on them.
Oh, not the burn.
OP.
Too many burns in this game. You know, you think you get tilted with
I know.
chat on, but then you have this dragon insulting your family, insulting what you decided to wear. It's too much.
That's my thought on Liquid Earth, which is similar to yours. I mean, that's the flavor. In the rage, she takes that claw.
Yeah.
Just bam.
And the visual, too, is incredible. Exactly. She brings it down and lava spews up.
Oh, so good. So good. Great. What was your second heroic idea?
The second heroic, I'm going with up, up, and away. And when Onyxia is brought to half health, she immediately transforms into her dragon form, if she's not in it already, and takes to the skies. While airborne, whelplings spawn and attack all enemy heroes in range. Simultaneously, she gains an ability that allows her to rain fire down from above. Onyxia cannot be targeted during this phase and will only land once all whelplings are defeated or the ability duration ends.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. I mean, I believe there's a time in the raid where you can't attack her or something. In most raids, there's a time where you can't hit the boss. If you hit the boss, then something bad happens.
Exactly.
I mean, this is perfect. Oh, and the whelps are coming down. I think that is so good. If you're making Onyxia one player like you did, one player plays Onyxia, you gotta incorporate the whelps, and why not make it heroic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Oh, I just imagine that. So, yeah, the animation would be tough, right? To try to get her to fly up so that you couldn't hit her, especially in that like top-down view. How do you think they would do that?
They would probably lift her up a few inches off the ground and then probably just make her untargetable. So she'd appear as a friendly unit, I would imagine.
Oh, so great. Oh, such a great idea. My second heroic for Onyxia was called Screech.
Now, is it just is it just a screech sound or is it literally screech?
It's a guy on a podcast just saying Screech. No, it's a screech sound, but spelled out so you know what you're picking.
Okay.
This is for the Onyxia player, and Onyxia's ability to strike fear in the hearts of her enemies is unmatched, and this heroic does just that. When it is chosen, she screeches, and all enemy team members in range are feared for a short amount of time. During the fear, the team members run in random directions out of fear for their life.
I like it. I love fears. I really hope they incorporate it into Heroes at some point. But I understand how challenging it would be.
Oh, I understand the challenges. Both the challenges with how do you control where the people are going? I mean, how, like, systematically, how would you control that? And also, it's going to be tough, because if you start fearing someone like Li Ming, right, she might end up in a really bad place a lot. And she might die a lot.
Exactly.
So it would be tough if something like that was happening, you know. But I'm with you. I want it in the game just because I feel like it would be something that, if done right, could translate very well from Warcraft to Heroes.
Certainly, and I think it would work really, really well as a heroic, like you've placed it as, because look at how well Sylvanas' silence can work when done correctly. And it's a slow cooldown, it's a heroic, so it's not something you just spam willy-nilly, you know?
Right.
Unless you're assured you're going to get a kill, or you're doing an engage.
Right. Great points. Yeah, the team over there will figure it out. I'm convinced that they'll have fear in this game.
At some point, but then of course that raises the question, what hero do they feel is worth getting fear? Because we have how many heroes now and no fear?
Right, and some of them I wonder if they created fear, they'd have to go back and be like, well, Zool, or they'd have to go back and be like, oh, the Butcher. Maybe the Butcher should have some sort of fear. But really, I mean, because that's in Diablo too. Mm-hmm. So they got to do it.
At some point, I'm betting on it. I'm betting at some point in the future. I'm just excited to see which hero they decide, like I said, is worthy of scaring heroes enough.
Yeah, man, I would think it would be the Butcher. I mean, that's a good one. Or something from Warcraft something like this might be able to do that. What do you think? Do you have an idea of one?
Oh man, one that, because we've got all of some really good baddies up there. Let's see, ultimate baddies though.
What about like Mouthail?
Mouthail would be oh yes.
Because what is scarier than death?
Perfect. Unless you're undead.
Unless you're undead like Leoric.
Yeah, and Leoric doesn't work on those guys. Butcher maybe. We're not sure if he's undead or not. It's definitely from hell.
Broke the game.
Beautiful.
And it's not even in the game.
Hashtag break the game.
Good point, and we'll leave it there so that you listeners at home can just dwell in that and try to figure out your idea. So if you haven't listened to the show in a while, this is episode 10, and on episode 9 we started doing something Kristen came up with for creating a specialty skin for the hero that we put into the forge this week. And so Kristen, I want to hear, and this is really where we go crazy, right? Because there are some crazy skins in the game. We all know this, you know, King Candy Mirrodin, we always talk about, you know, Bikini Stitches and Sugar Plum Fairy Sylvanas.
Yes.
I mean, this is where you can just take the mold and throw it off of a really tall building and let it break. So let's do it. What specialty skin did you think for the warrior version of Onyxia?
This one is one of my personal favorites that I would love, love, love to see because we're going back to X-Men, the animated series.
Ooh.
In the 90s. Little Kristen. And Jean Grey came back as something called the Phoenix. And it was so sweet because she was a woman encased in fire that was shaped as a bird. It was incredible. So I was thinking Phoenix Force Onyxia. So instead of transforming into a dragon, she retains her human form, but she has fire around her. That is the dragon form. And when she dies, Cyclops can run out of can run out of the bushes and cry on her corpse. And then he like screams, lets out a little fire beam into the sky so everyone knows Onyxia is down, and then he runs back.
Love it. That would be a legendary skin for sure. Oh, the fire animation would be so cool because they could do like what they do with demonic Tyrael wings, like that same sort of kind of feel. That animation.
And they've done the Phoenix with Kael'thas already, so we know it's possible.
Oh, the work's done. The work's done. There's the idea. The work's done.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. My idea is directly inspired by you and your gaming adventures for Onyxia.
Oh, I'll just hang up on the client.
raid boss version I figured would be so awesome if the Onyxia player played the alien from Alien.
Oh.
And then the lava fonts were the eggs, like those creepy eggs. And then all of the whelps were those little baby aliens that live inside of people.
Oh, the chest bursters?
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh, okay. So we gotta go. So we have the alien Onyxia. I would imagine she'd be a queen design.
Yeah, some sort of extra scary
Yeah.
alien feel
Maybe just
thing.
a xenomorph that's been born from the chest of a dragon. That would be pretty cool too.
Oh, that's great. And you know how in my build she has that bite ability? Like,
Yes.
I'm picturing the mouth within the mouth, like coming out and just rush.
Too good. And Manny's saying face huggers instead of the chest bursters.
Oh yeah, the face
Well,
huggers.
maybe instead of the so they have the fire debuff, correct?
Right.
But maybe each time they get a debuff, a chest burster comes out or something. I don't know.
Or that's when you get a face hugger attached to you.
There we go. And eventually you have 5 face huggers. You got 2 on each arm, 1 on your leg, 1 on your
And
face.
they can't be healed. You got a hearth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to get them off.
That would be amazing.
I think this has been a blast, this hero. Let's call it, Kristen. Let's say that this hero is full.
HeroesForge.
Oh, where to even begin to recap with this hero? I mean, your warrior build and the Phoenix idea at the end when she bursts into the dragon form is just such a great idea. And, you know, the true Onyxia feel is the through line, and I think we both have that. You know, the lava pounding at the bottom, and then, you know, the whole bite mechanism, and of course tail whips and the claws striking. That's what dragons feel like, to me at least. And then we went a little bit off the wall with the idea of making Onyxia a player or a hero that was played by all 5 players on the team. One would play Onyxia, and then the rest would play the whelps, and they would just try to overwhelm the team. And I'm thinking that, you know, how cool would it be to implement that raid game idea where Onyxia was just the first hero that you could play with 5 people, but maybe next time you could play another raid boss. Maybe Malthael is that next person, and all 4 people play, you know, spirits or something, and then there's somebody that's playing him. I mean, just you could go crazy with something like that, and that's what we're all about on this show, is coming up with really fun ideas. And something we really appreciate is the people in the chat sending us ideas too. We love you, chat. You guys are great. Thanks for sticking around even though this show was delayed a whole extra day. You guys are awesome. So if you're looking to find us, we always stream on Sunday evenings on twitch.tv/HeroesForge. You can check out the live stream there. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays again. And if you want a little bit of insight and just stay connected with the show, you can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @ForgedHeroes, and there we have a little bit of a sneak peek into the hero that we're forging the next week. It usually comes out about Wednesday or Thursday once Kristen and I decide who we think is worthy of HeroesForge. And so we announce that on our Twitter feed, so make sure that you're following us over there on Twitter. We also have our own website. It's called HeroesForge.club. On the website, we post all of the previous shows. You can check out the feed there. You can also check out all of the builds that we have, links to all of those builds, so you can check out the links and see all the text if you guys wanted to see something or read something that we came up with. Of course, all of the VODs of these live recordings are on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/HeroesForge. And you can, of course, download the show on iTunes. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review if you actually really enjoy the show. And going off of that, if you really enjoy the show, make sure you visit our Patreon page. If you enjoyed this idea of like a raid boss or something really off the wall crazy, we have some really cool goals that we'd like to reach on our Patreon page that allow us to do more crazy episodes, forging battlegrounds, doing a whole bunch of really cool stuff over there. Check out the goals on our Patreon page, and we appreciate you taking a look at it. So, Kristen, what do you think? This was one of the best, I think.
Yeah, I think this one gelled super hard. The ideas were off the chain. off
Yeah.
the chain. Like a 5-man hero. I love it.
I'm pumped, and I know Chad is pumped too for the show, and so hopefully we can live up to this. And I am so happy and so proud to say that we have gone 10 episodes into the year, and we are going strong.
Yeah,
It's so
congratulations, Jeff, and congratulations, chat. We love you. Congratulations, listeners. We did it.
That's right.
Big milestone.
Oh, this is a huge milestone. We're going to be looking back on this and be like, we're on the 5,000th episode. We've forged every little blade of grass in Warcraft. We're moving on to the next thing. Well, on that, Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs?
People can find me at Dream Destroyer, DRMDESTRYR, over at Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. And also my blog, ripped for blizzcon.weebly.com.
Great. And you guys can find me here. Oh, somebody asked where we could find me because I usually don't announce where you can find me, but you can find me right here on HeroesForge live Sunday nights, 7 o'clock Pacific time. And with that, we're going to call the show. We will see you all in the real world.